So my name is Natalie Zaman, and I am the Executive Director of the Hunterdon County Cultural and Heritage Commission, and do a lot of different things, but the four big ones are we are housed in the Hunterdon County Historic Courthouse and Jail in Flemington, New Jersey. And part of what I do is the administration of that courthouse and jail. We use it as gallery space, as performance and workshop space. We give tours. There's also been some filming done there. So it's a neat place to visit. So part of what my office does is that we administer that. We also do a lot of grant writing and administration, grant making. And we also do arts and history initiatives such as huntart.org and hunthistory.org, which are online art and history trails, respectively. Hunt History is a work in progress. Hunt Art is up now. And it just basically gives you a, and it's connected to our tourism platform, which is Explore Hunterdon. And it's just an online trail so that folks can find our different venues and, and historical sites. Right now, like I said, Hunt History is a work in progress, and we're hoping to relaunch it for the 250th. Not hoping, it's happening. It's happening. And we also do other initiatives such as the Hunterdon County Teen Arts Festival. So for our grant opportunities for history, we have, like many, like my colleagues in other counties have, we have our CHIP application. For 2025, our County History Partnership Program application will be available at the end of June and the beginning of July of this year. And it will be due at the end of September. And this is something that I don't know if anybody else has come up against this, but when you're applying for funding, like our 2024 funding has been, it's done. We've already established it. But I still get a lot of people like, oh, do you have any funding for this year? And it's like, no, you've got to apply a year in advance. So the application is released in 2024 and you're doing the application in 2024, but the funding is for 2025. For history, we also have a special project grant that's administered by us, but it's provided by the Hunterdon County Board of County Commissioners. And this is for arts and history projects. For 2024, our special project grant application will be available this summer, and it's going to be due before the end of the year. This year's special project is a little different for us because we got a National Endowment for the Arts grant for arts projects. So usually that grant is about $22,500. This year it's $60,000. We used the base as a match, and then we got a $30,000 grant from the NEA. But this is going to be arts projects that are focused on the 250th. So if you're in Hunterdon County, and you're a nonprofit organization, this could be a really good opportunity for you. All of our grant information can be found at the website that I have here, www.co.hunterdon.nj.us. Don't know why they have the 414 in there, but then grants, and that will take you to our grants page, and we post all of our applications and guidelines and everything right on the website. For each grant, we hold 3 technical assistance workshops. And by the way, I don't have I'm not sharing the actual application or web pages yet because we're still in the process of revising the applications. So I don't have the dates yet. But over the period where between when the grant is released and when it's due, we hold 3 technical assistance workshops for each application. We do one morning, one afternoon, and one evening with in-person and virtual options available. So, there's always a chance to ask questions, and folks can always reach out to me too, if they have any questions about the application or the guidelines. Eligibility, nonprofits and municipalities may apply for CHIP funding in Hunterdon County. Only nonprofits can apply for our special project grant. And then we offer general operating support for the CHIP grant to nonprofits with history-based missions, and nonprofits that don't have a history-based mission or a municipality can apply for special project, for a project support through our County History Partnership Program grant. And the special project grant is only for projects. So, I mean, those are the opportunities that we have. And did I have anything else here? Let me see if I was, oh, yeah, okay. I have also our contact and my contact information. And if you just go to the cultural, to the Hunterdon County website, there's a page for cultural and heritage. You may have to dig a little bit. We're under planning. But all of our information, contact information, information about grants and other opportunities is there. So sorry to have done a little bit of a railroad thing there, but that's the basics for Hunterdon County. And I'm always happy to answer any questions anyone has. So
Great. Well,
thank you
you
for giving us the opportunity to share.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. And we're going to have questions at the end. And thank you for also sharing your other grant opportunity. I actually have a question myself at the end regarding that. So we really appreciate that. And for folks who are interested in the link that Natalie posted, my colleague Rachel has posted it in the chat. So you can actually copy it from the chat. Even though at the end of the series, we will send out all the links, any special links that have been put there. So thank you again, Natalie. I look forward to asking you more questions at the end. Okay, so our next presenter will be Chelsea Johnstone, and the analyst trainee for the Mercer County Division of Culture and Heritage. Welcome, Chelsea.
Hi, thank you for having us. I'm excited to present. Just as was said before, I think a lot of times it's difficult to get this grant information out. So I think this is a very helpful seminar to have, even in a short, brief overview. Am I able to share my screen as well?
Yes, you're able to.
Awesome. Okay, let's see if we can get this together. Share. Okay, so can everybody see this? We're all good?
I think it's loading in. Yep, there it goes.
It goes? Okay, yeah, I just kind of made this little breakdown. Before I kind of jump into our grant offerings, I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit if that is okay with everyone. The Mercer County Division of Culture and Heritage is kind of similar to many culture and heritages around the state of New Jersey, in which we're a small group of people who do a lot of different things. So we have a lot of different art and history, culture related events, including our cultural festival that's coming up this Saturday. That's why my division chief, Edamus Press Marston's not here today. They're setting up some tents. But I'm here to help go over this grants information. On our website, we have a grant information page that kind of lays out the opportunities we have available. We like to break them down into two primary categories, which is history and art. Given the specification of today's meeting, I want to dive into our regrant program. Our history regrant program is actually open right now. It's been open since April, and the deadline is July 1st. Nonprofit Mercer County-based organizations, 501c3 and 501c4 organizations qualify for general operating support and special projects. So both in history and art, we offer general operating support as well as special project support. If you are a history organization or a society, a site primarily based in history, you are eligible for general operating. If you are not primary to history, you can only apply for a special project support. I bring this up because we've actually seen in the last year that there are people who are not necessarily history groups, but are interested in history funding because they have a history type program or special program. And I like to always mention that this can also be an opportunity for those groups. So I guess I could just kind of take you to our history regrant program guidelines. All of this information is available on our website. They're pretty lengthy. It kind of goes into detail about what you can apply for, what is eligible and ineligible uses of funding for special project versus general operating support. I don't want to take up too much time and go through this whole guideline with you. I'll definitely make sure that this slide is available for everybody. But similar to our last presenter, we also offer a mini grant. Unfortunately, that mini grant for this fiscal year just closed at the end of May. That is the 250th mini planning grant. And like mentioned, in other counties, we understand that a lot of our history organizations are doing specific projects based in the 250th anniversary coming up in 2026. This is a very short application, which I believe I have pulled up somewhere up here. The bar is a little bit in the way here. Somewhere. Let's look at those. Too many. There it is. And it's essentially a 1 to 2 page narrative and then an explanation of what you're trying to accomplish for the 250th. One thing I want to bring up is that, as mentioned in, again, a previous presentation, is that the history application and this local arts LAP program are something you apply for in the year prior to receiving funding. That is different from the mini planning grant. So if next year, we're going to be offering the fiscal year 25 250th special mini planning grant, and you'll apply for it that year and receive the funding that year. But for the history grant itself, you would apply this year by July 1st, and that's for funding for fiscal year 25. So that's something I just like to clarify because I know it can be a bit confusing, and I know we have today actually a couple people on call who are some of our re-grantees, which is nice to see. But that is kind of essentially it for us. One thing I do want to point out, which is also a link on here, which you can feel free to explore at some point, is we, for this year, have opened a new online grant portal. So it used to be in which you would fill out an actual physical application or a Word document, and you would email that to us, send us a hard copy in the mail. Now everything is completely online. It's simplified. We no longer require a written out like 10-page narrative. We simplified everything into question-based answers to make this a little bit easier for everybody. And I think that's about it. I'm probably a little over time here, but here's our contact information, myself, our general office number, and yeah, thank you all for presenting. I'm hoping to answer some questions at the end of this call.
Great. Thank you, Chelsea. And no, I don't think you were over time.
Oh, good. Okay. Kind of spoke a little fast there.
Yeah. And so we look forward to asking questions at the end. I also look forward to checking out your application portal since you said you simplified it. I'm like, I want to see what this simplified application looks like. So
yeah, I can send
probably
a link in the chat too.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely want to take a look at that. Great. So the next presenter will be Mike Moran from the history. They are the History Grants Coordinator for the Middlesex County Division of History and Historic Preservation. Hey, Michael.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to quickly share my screen and bring up our grants portal so everyone can take a quick look at that. Again, my name is Mike Moran. I am the History Grants Coordinator for the Arts Institute of Middlesex County, Division of History and Historic Preservation, and we work under the auspices of the County of Middlesex Board of County Commissioners. The Arts Institute of Middlesex County is committed to the vision that all residents of Middlesex County can access and participate in the arts, history, folklife, and culture that enrich their lives. And one of the programs that we do to fulfill that is our grants program, which we actually will be launching this month for the 2025 cycle. So just to quickly show everyone upcoming schedule here, our declarations of intent for applications are going to be due on August 20th for us, and our application will be due on September 17th. To assist prospective grantees and applicants, we will be holding 4 grant writing workshops, as we call them. The first one will be on June 25th at East Jersey Old Town, which is our historic museum in Middlesex County. And we'll also have a follow-up one on August 6th here at East Jersey Old Town. And then we will have Zoom sessions available for everyone on July 10th and July 25th. So these will be live for you to ask any questions to our grant coordinators and managers here for this arts and history grant cycle. What we have here is we offer, for this competitive grant, actually 5 different grant types. I'm going to talk briefly about 3 of them today, because those are the ones we work with the New Jersey Historical Commission to offer here. So we offer program grants in 2 types. Program 1 is for larger grants between $5,000 and $30,000, and it supports annual funding for existing nonprofits or municipal agencies to deliver arts and history programming. We offer Program 2 grants, which are for smaller grants. These are for $1,000 to $5,000, and those are the same also for history programs, or actually also arts programs. We offer that at the same time. We do, however, require a cash match for our programs. So it's 15% for the smaller program, program 1, 2, and it's 20% for the larger one in program 1. Additionally to that, we offer general operating support grants. These are for established arts or history nonprofit organizations that's primary mission is history, and it is the fund for between $10,000 and $35,000, and that one has a requirement that you cannot ask for more than 25% of your annual budget. But however, we do also offer a commitment that if you do receive general operating support, that we will put you into the commitment for a second year of funding in addition to this one. Let me just pull up briefly here a program 1 sheet here that gives more information on a program here. Again, 20% cash match, and specifically a program is narrowly focused and must have a definite goal or theme. It can be an annual event or an integrated series of events, but it must have a specific start or end date, which occurs within the grant period. That would be January 1st to December 31st within 2025. But it can be any expense associated with that within our guidelines, which again, I won't go through today, but it could be anything from the historians you hire, docents, archivists, supplies can be used for funding. We also offer other history-related grant offerings. We will also be opening on June 25th our historic preservation grants for between up to $35,000, which fund capital improvements in historic buildings. For non-historic buildings, we also offer capital grants, also opening on June 25th. We have just finished our technical assistance grants. That is a mini grant program we offer every spring, and it is for organizations to build their capacity each year, to hire consultants, and also things like website development to assist the organization to build their capacity as they work through. So that is, yep, and again, as I said before, this will be for the 2025 year cycle. And again, we offer many different services, and I just wanted to make sure we focused on the grants today. In Middlesex County, we also have 2 historic site museums that are open to the public at East Jersey Old Town and the Cornelius Lau House Museum. And I believe I'm now up against my time, so I'll kick it back to Noelle.
If you have something else you need to finish saying, you can say it. Right.
No, I think that covers everything with the grants. We're always happy to assist and help, and our contact information is on our grant portal here. And you can, anyone who was interested in history grant programs. I did actually know there is one more thing, just to specify again. I didn't specify eligibility criteria. You must be a municipal agency or a nonprofit based in Middlesex County and recognized by the state of New Jersey. Your facility and your grant funded activities must take place within Middlesex County. All programming must be open to the public and comply with ADA Act of 1990, and those are the criteria that you have to in order to apply in Middlesex County. Then also back to Noelle then.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. That was really interesting. That was I think Middlesex might have like one of the like largest dispersion of grants in the county. And so it's really interesting to see that. And kind of exciting too. So great. So the next presenter will be Caitlin Bundy, manager of the Somerset County Cultural and Heritage Commission. Oh, I see Caitlin and Mike a
Hello.
lot. I'm like, Mike and Caitlin, I love it. So good to see you again.
Hi. All right, let me just share my screen. My turn, shared screen. All right, can we see that one pager there? Going with the yeses. All right.
Yes.
So hello everyone. My name is Caitlin Bundy. I'm manager of Somerset County's Culture and Heritage Commission. Like all of my other county counterparts today, we run the CHIP program for Somerset County. There's a lot of similarities, as you've heard, as the grants go through. What I'll go through is something a little bit different, just because we're all, a lot of the same kind of information being shared. What we did is we put together kind of like a little time frame, because what we keep talking about, as you've heard all of us, everyone is applying in 2024 for funding in 2025. So here I just have a brief timeline of, we expect our applications to go live in mid-July. That is a big old hope for us because at the end of this month, Somerset County is going to be switching website platforms. So I can't do anything early because all of every link, every QR code, every bit.ly, everything we've ever created is going to break and has to be reestablished in July. So fingers crossed, we will stick around. I'm hoping for that mid-July release. Because that's what we're hoping. We're prepping for. We know everything's going to break on our end, so we know, and we're trying very hard to make sure everything transfers smoothly. But with an entire county site-wide website going to like a .gov platform, I figured there's going to be some hiccups. Here we go. But basically, we expect our applications to go live in July. We will hold our technical assistance workshops in August, similar to how Natalie talked about. We usually have at least 2 to 3 workshops. We try to always make sure that there are morning ones, afternoon and evening sessions, because we know a lot of the organizations applying are nonprofits run by volunteers who have other things going on in their lives, oftentimes including work. So we try to make sure we have those different times available to be accessible to everyone. Our applications will be due in mid-September. And then what happens with these is that we do have an independent peer panel who will review every single application. That panel then comes together, they review it together. Then there's another at least 2 to 3 steps at the county where we have the Culture and Heritage Commissions and their committees review everything and make recommendations. And then ultimately it goes to the county commissioners for final review. So sometimes we find with our applicants, they're like, what's taking so long? It's because they're like, these grants are reviewed in several stages and steps. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot of meetings, especially getting on a county commissioner meeting to get on a resolution. We are government agencies, so there is, all that fun red tape that everyone talks about. It exists. But we try very hard to make sure, at least in Somerset County, that we can at least notify our applicants of their awards by December so that you guys can properly plan, because these are calendar based. So everyone is always anxious as we get into December going, do we have the money? Are we getting money? What's happening? So that way, at least the organizations can know that they will be awarded funding, that they won't get until 25, but help them kind of prepare as we enter into that new year. Once we get into 25, we then do our contract paperwork. We get halfway through the year. There are interim reports. There is a final report that's actually will be due in 26. And everything needs to be completed within the calendar year of 2025. And that's really important for everyone to know, is again, we're working in these calendar years. So that's why I tried to map out the timeline to give everyone kind of a better idea of what you're going to experience. We don't have specific maximums or limits on our grants. It is based on as as kind of mentioned, from the different organizations, sometimes it's based on your organizational budget, sometimes it's based on the project. As of 2024, the Somerset County Cultural and Heritage Commission has not reinstituted a match requirement. We dropped our matches when we hit COVID to allow our historical organizations to kind of revamp, and because there was a lot of struggle. This is something that has not been brought back, but I also have not brought my new guidelines to my commission. They actually go to my Culture and Heritage Commission this Thursday, for where they will vote on if a match would return for 25. But I honestly don't expect at this time. But similar things, just like Hunterdon and Mercer, we have, basically two categories. It is our general operating support and special projects, very similar to what was already talked about there. So I don't want to keep repeating, but this is kind of just an easy one pager that we put together to kind of consolidate some of that information. I think the only thing that are a little bit different is that we do allow institutions of higher education and faith-based organizations to apply, but there are different requirements. So those are additional requirements that are built into our guidelines that you would have to read and understand. Like everyone else, we are here to talk and help everyone through these applications as best as we can. And same stuff. But it is a long process. We often tell organizations, and we try to be very upfront. We call our application an RFA, which is a request for application. That comes from the county's purchasing agency. This is through procurement law and being, very fair and open. So our application can look intimidating, where there's a lot of information up front. And that's done, because of the procurement law stuff, but also because we want to be very honest of you are entering into a contract with these so that there are no surprises. So it looks intimidating, but as you read through it, you go, oh, okay, we'll have to sign a contract. We have to do all this reporting. There are requirements for how we state our funding and logo requirements and things like publicity requirements. So we try to be very, very upfront about that, and so that way you get into this contract and you're not surprised in the new year, especially if you're a new organization applying. It can be a little intimidating when you see all this, but we want it to be there for you, so that way you don't enter into this, you get money, and then you get in trouble later on because you're like, oh, well, you didn't put our logo in the funding statement on all of your flyers for the entire year. The last thing we'd ever want to do is revoke, or rescind any money from an organization. We are here to help. So that's why, what I would say for any organization, regardless of what county your organization is based in, read through the guidelines, talk to the staff at each county. We are here to help. We all, we've all been through it. We know all the questions. And if you, for some reason, stump us, we're always talking to Nicole at the state to try to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that everyone's doing what we need to do. And then just real quick, in Somerset County, we additionally do have a historic preservation grant. There is no cap on that. We've given away this past year in 23. We granted about $500,000 to one organization alone. So for capital funds for a historic organization in the county. So again, these are you have to be based in Somerset County to apply for our funding, just as with the other counties. But so that's the thing. You have to know what county you're based in and go on our websites and kind of see what different opportunities each one of us is able to provide. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Caitlin. Really appreciate that. So at this juncture, before we move to general questions and answers, I just wanted to see if there were any organizations, so not the county presenters, who would like to introduce their organization briefly before we move into the organization, into the questions and answers. So if Oh, okay. So then I guess what we'll do is we'll move into the questions and answers.
Sorry, Noelle. It looks like Molly might want to present.
Oh, okay. Great.
Hi, Noelle.
Hi.
Hi. You're just inviting us who are attendees to tell about our organization?
Yes, yes. Before we move into the question and answer, just briefly.
Sure. Sure. And this might be the context for some of my questions too. So
Uh-huh.
I'm at 120 East State, which is the old First Presbyterian Church and Cemetery in downtown Trenton. One of our board members, Nancy Livingston, is with us here today. And we are 2 years old. So we don't qualify for Historic Commission funding because we're not 5 years old yet. But we're very ambitiously looking to show up for the 250th anniversary, have a visitor-ready site, and we need support. So we've applied through our Mercer County mini grant for a little bit of help, but we're looking for more support. So that leads me to some of my other questions. And it's an old church building, and so we're looking to put it into adaptive reuse. One piece of which, of course, is the historic interpretation. But in order to keep it open and to pay the bills, we're going to be having to have it be used for all different kinds of wonderful things right here in downtown Trenton. So we are not, we're not just a pure historic site. We're going to be a community center for the arts and for programming and other things. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing about your organization. Mr. Ward? Oh, you're muted. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi.
For those who don't know me, my name's Algernon Ward. I'm president of the 6th Regiment United States Colored Troops and 1st Rhode Island Regiment Reenactors. We're the nonprofit sponsors for the Locust Hill Project, which is to open a museum related to the Locust Hill Segregated Cemetery here in the city of Trenton. We're working on various projects associated with that, as well as our normal fare of programming. We work at East Jersey Old Town. And I see my dear friend from Trenton, the First Presbyterian Church. They have a wonderful site there. In fact, some of the Hessians that died in the Battle of Trenton are actually buried at that site. So I hope the county realizes the import of that particular site and supports it. I have questions later on for the Historic Commission and my county, but I just want to make people aware of the Locust Hill Project, Black Museum, and the Locust Hill Cemetery, segregated cemetery that we've restored in the East Ward here in the city of Trenton. So I won't take up any more time, and we'll move the agenda along, I guess.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And I want to say also, Mr. Ward has a very nicely produced video that I believe that they worked on the students with. That was a great promotional piece. Okay, so if there isn't anyone else who would like to introduce themselves, I guess we'll open up to questions and discussions. So I saw that one person did say that there was technical assistance for grantees, like actually specific meetings. Would you all say that that all of your offices offer technical assistance as far as folks who are have questions about the narrative or questions about the budget? Would you say like all of you offer that, even if there aren't scheduled technical assistance sessions?
So from Middlesex, we do offer our 4 grant workshops every year. In addition to that, we will organize 8 to 10 during the course of the year technical assistance workshops on various topics related to nonprofit management. These could be things like fundraising, social media, ADA. So according to the course of the year, we should have anywhere from 8 to 10 of those various technical assistance workshops. In addition to that, we are welcome if you want to give us a call, ask us any specific questions, and we can assist with questions as best as we can. But yes, we do offer those technical assistance opportunities to actually not just applicants, but any organization within the county. It's open to the public.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you for answering that. Chelsea?
Hi, I just wanted to also mention that here in Mercer County, we are looking to have more workshops just in general available to our grantees. Something we've talked about a lot this year, as I mentioned, we switched to this new online grant portal, which I know is kind of different for a lot of people who've been applying the same way for many years.
Mm,
Where we have devised like a very in-depth Word document essentially of how to manage this whole new grant portal, what's different from the old application, new application. There's screenshots about how to access this. But we are talking as a division to find ways in which to support everyone. But until we have an actual set workshop schedule date, we're definitely on an on-call basis. I'm definitely, I speak to Mr. Ward regularly via email, on the phone. And I know that this is kind of a new switch for people and those who are also new and have not done this before. We're definitely willing to just sit down and talk with people through the process if need be.
okay, great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So basically, I know we discussed it a little bit, but just to ask a question of what type of information is requested in the grant applications. So I know generally it's narrative and a budget, but is there anything of note that you all would like to comment on as far as for the applications? Yes, Chelsea?
Hi, just to jump back in here.
Yeah.
I'm actually newer to my division, and I've noticed in our last grant submission process last year, a lot of our panelists want us to reiterate to people, and I think it's important I bring up now, to really clarify things within your application of how the funding you're requesting is going to be spent. A lot of times we have grantees kind of give us a big overall of who they are as an organization, which is definitely needed, and kind of explain what the actual project is, but they don't go into specifics about where is this funding going? Is it going, are you spending 500 here, 200 here? Even if it's estimates, the application, I will tell you just from firsthand experience sitting with our panelists going over, they really want to have like a clear line that states this is where this money's going. And I always try to reiterate that, make it simple for people to understand what you are looking for funding for. And that's kind of the primary component of the grant applications of all of them.
Great, thank you. Caitlin?
So yeah, kind of on the same note, when we're running our technical assistance workshops or just talking to potential or past grantees, we constantly like to remind them as they're writing their applications that, especially the independent peer panel who will review these applications, they don't know you. So you actually have to talk about who you are, what makes you awesome, what makes you great, what makes you such an awesome, entity in our county, why you're, like tell your story. I mean, you got to consolidate it because you don't want it to be like a tome, but but it's so important that like sometimes they gloss over the amazing things they do as an organization. And then we're sitting there as staff being like, no, they're so fantastic. Why do they not talk about what they do? And what I always tell organizations, like, look, we know a lot of them, especially ones working at the county level with us, they again volunteer groups. They often don't have professional staff writing these grants, so you don't have a professional grant writer a lot of times. And so if your strength isn't in the writing, use the support material that you can put in that application to help tell that story. A lot of times our panelists will be like, oh, I didn't realize they did all this stuff, but then I saw their pamphlets and their flyers and saw all the fantastic things that this organization is doing. And it gives them a better, well-rounded idea of what your organization does. Our applications in Somerset County, they're question-based. So basically we ask a question, you answer it right under. It's not like a long, just general narrative. One of the questions that we implemented after COVID and that we have kept in ours is a contingency plan question. And this this is twofold. Basically, one, we can't always fully fund organizations. In fact, it's very rare that we can fully fund, big requests from organizations. We just don't have the funding. So we want organizations as they're applying to go, okay, well, if I don't, if I ask for $10,000 and I only get 4, what are you going to do? So that helps the panel kind of see, okay, like, can they think about like what they're going to do? Is it just they're going to do a little bit less? They can't bring in as much. They have to, they have to switch priorities, things like that. We also, because of COVID, we ask organizations to think about if something happens, say something like COVID comes back, say you're doing an outside event and we get a hurricane. There are things that you can at least plan for. And so we ask organizations to think about if you have to pivot, because the last thing we want to do is give the money back because your event was canceled and you didn't have a rain date and it was, or something got destroyed. All the tents you rented are blown away. Like, how can you, what can you switch to a virtual platform and still engage the public that way? So things that we ask our organizations to think about as they're applying. We don't expect them to have a, 30-page, emergency plan ready for that, but we want them to just be thinking about like, okay, your tomorrow can change. Like, we got hit by Ida really bad in Somerset County. No one was thinking a random, rainstorm was going to wash out bridges and decimate. Our entire professional ballpark was underwater. So you never know what's going to happen. So we encourage organizations to think about those kind of, those things, but not to like hyper obsess over them, but to like at least be conscious of like stuff can happen. What are we going to do to think about it?
Thank you, Caitlin. Natalie?
Thank you so much. There we go. So one of the things that, and I'm not new in my role, but I'm relatively new, like under 2 years in my current role. And one of the things that I had started to do when I first came in was to look at the grant applications and go over them and try to streamline, how, just to simplify it, for our various grantees. I'm working on getting that online portal, but not quite yet. But one of the things I did, and I found it to be very effective, was to get feedback from not only my, from grantees and also from our panel, where I was like, what made this application easy for you to read, access, et cetera, et cetera. And I did the same thing with our grantees. I was like, well, apart from like no application whatsoever, which we can't do that, what can we do to make this application easier to understand, clearer? And I actually got a lot of great feedback, for simplifying, streamlining, and clarifying, what we're asking for. So that's something that's, I don't know if that's a possibility for other counties, but I know for us, it's because it's such an involved process, not just for us, it's like, we're not siloed. It's like, we are the grant maker, you are asking, you are this, it's kind of a, like a, not symbiotic, but it's like this, just a community effort. And it also, it kind of, helps people to feel more involved with these, with this process. And takes away a little bit of the intimidation. So we like to hear feedback. That's what I wanted to share. Thanks.
Oh, great. That's an important note. Michael, thank you. Thank you for sharing, both of you.
All right, thank you again. We are mindful of the fact that we do end up asking for a lot of information from these organizations for the panel to review them, as well as some things we're just required to do by law. So we've tried to center almost all the eligibility questions within the letter of intent to try to split up some of the workload that you may have to do to apply for grant application. So in the letter of intent, we'll ask you for basic things like your organizational contact information, a short summary of what you're asking for, as well as things like your incorporation papers, make sure you're based here in Middlesex County, and your IRS tax exempt to make sure that you're eligible. So we don't want anyone who isn't eligible to go through this entire process and then end up not getting it. We want to be able to screen that at the beginning. Once we get into the application range round, we do have tailored our application to specific tracks So if you're applying for something that has some more specialized questions that need to be answered, we do have tracks for things like oral history or digitization projects, things that have specific technical questions that the panel needs to know. And if you're not applying for them, thankfully, you won't see them because they're specific to that track. So we have sort of calibrated the applications to do that. One thing I do want to know, we do look for information, things like your audience statistics. If you have public programs open to the public, these programs are meant to be open to the public. So we do want to see what your statistics were in the previous years. However, I want to emphasize again, if you're a new organization that hasn't run programming, that's perfectly fine too. We can work with the panel and the panel can discuss. It's just getting a sense of the size of your organization. We also have, again, if you're applying for general operating support, however, there are additional plans that we're going to ask for, like in a full ADA plan or a full strategic plan. We don't ask for those things on project grants, but for a GOS grant, it's for a more established organization to work through. One thing I do want to emphasize is since the applications are very program-based, the program applications are very development based and they sort of flow within each other. One thing we do look for and the panel looks for is resumes and bios of the individuals that you're looking to hire to do these programs. One of the things that the panelists are usually asked for is to assess the merit of the program, and it's difficult for them to assess the merit if they don't know who's doing the work. So that is one thing we do emphasize to all the applicants when they're doing is to try to have the resumes and the bios prepared on the application so that it can be reviewed appropriately.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Algernon? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I'll try to find it.
Oh, it's on mute still.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
As a grantee, I hope you heard yourselves, what you just said about your eligibility requirements. One said, tell us who you are. Make sure we know who you are. The other one said, well, don't spend so much time talking about that. We want to know the numbers that you're projecting. And you in a nightmare, get all of the resumes from everybody you hope to use in your project and have that turned in a certain amount of time. These are things that encumber applicants to a degree that I don't think you fully appreciate how much work that would take to do. It takes a lot. And I'm telling you, I'm the guy sitting here at 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about how to write a contingency plan for COVID or hurricane to include it in my application process. And that kind of stuff is not, it's highly technical stuff that nonprofits generally don't have the expertise on board to supply you with. Or, for instance, my good friend Michael talked about, he wants incorporation docs, he wants to see our IRS, he wants to see our laundry list and our car registration. No. It's a lot for nonprofit organization and people who are charged with writing grants to first figure out what it is exactly you want. Because I'll go heavy on the introduction of who I am and then get accused of not spending enough time in the budget narrative explaining how you're going to spend your money. So there's this, where's the sweet spot? You got to figure that out. And that doesn't often come very easily. And it's easy to suggest that we want to impress this panel of unknown people as to what they might want. We have no idea until we try to follow the grant verbatim, but it can be a lot. So even in this conversation, you saw various, well, we don't only have to deal with one, but each county had various things that they emphasize. And I just feel that, you know, consider the other end of that request. How is that grant writer going to accomplish what you just asked him for in a reasonable fashion?
So
Okay.
since I will pop in and make a response on that. You would be surprised. We do in fact know what we're asking from you, because in many ways, as counties, we're middlemen. We are working with you on grants, but we are also working above us with grants and doing the same level of reporting, in some cases more, with the state level and the federal level in some cases. So we do appreciate what we're asking for. And I assure you that we don't ask for anything that we don't need. And I know it's a lot, and that's why we try to break it up and try to specifically tailor it and refer to the guidelines, that the guidelines will walk you through step by step exactly what you need from us. So it is, we do appreciate it's quite a bit. I can tell you that I've been a history grants coordinator for 10 years. We have done in those 10 years at least 2 complete teardowns and rebuilds on this process to try to come up with something a little more tailored and worked for everybody. So what we've tried to do is, there was 18 questions. We've cut that down to 6, I think, at the last number I saw. But what ends up happening is when you cut down to 6, it ends up being like a compound question where you get to pick and choose part of the question you answer. So it ends up scaling back up to 8 questions because we still need those questions to be answered. So I just want to be mindful that one of the reasons why we're here is to assist you as best as we can. We're facilitators as first. I don't actually review the applications. I don't make the decision if you get grant money or runner, because that's part of my job, is to help you get to that point. So we are facilitating as best as we can. Again, we're aware that it's a lot of work and it's not something we're happy about, but it's part of what the process unfortunately is.
Thank you, Algernon and Michael. Chelsea? And then I guess after Chelsea, I guess I'll read Molly's questions if those are still pending.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of jump in, given that I know, Mr. Ward, you apply with us here in Mercer County. I think something that might be helpful to consider when applying for the history grant is to think about whether you're applying for general operating support or special project, because when you're focused on a special project grant, a lot of what the panelists, just in my experience, when I watch them review this and I sit down and they look at your application and such, if it's a special project, they want to know not necessarily everyone involved in the entire organization. I know specifically in your group, Mr. Ward, you have a lot of reenactors. We always give great bios for everybody. I know that for a fact. But say you're doing a special project application, you want to kind of focus your entire application on that project in particular. You want to give that gloss over of what it is you do as a whole. But in this application, your primary focus, kind of like if you were writing an essay in some ways, it's what is my main focus here? It's I'm applying for this project. So I want to walk the panelists through this project. Who's involved in the project? What are the specifications of this project? And that might cut down necessarily if you're applying for special project on having to explain everything involved in your organization, because I know you are very heavily involved within the city and within the county. You do a lot. So I understand that it can probably be very hard to narrow all of that down. So I applaud you for being able to do that every year. I know you've been applying for many years, even though I haven't. You've been applying longer than I've been working for here. So I hope also that you can always email, call, reach out to me, and I can help you walk through if you have any specific questions with your application or applications in particular. Definitely happy to help.
You've been helpful, Chelsea. I wouldn't say
Thank you.
anything negative about what you've been helping us with. But I just want to point out, for instance, one of the questions is, okay, you're going to institute this special project. What is the timeline for implementing the different things. So I have to give you a timeline from the save the date till the cleanup of the facility, including who I'm going to advertise with, how much we're going to spend with each one, when the ad's going to go up. That level of detail starts to be onerous when they want to know how many ads you're going to send out with who and all that business. That's
A lot.
a lot.
What I will
In the
say,
morning, trust me, you don't,
yeah.
your brain is tapioca. You're not functioning
Mhm.
all cylinders at that
And
time.
what I'll say too is that we also understand that a lot of things can be tentative. We're looking kind of as a general, what is your timeline? But we understand that like you are a year ahead of this event and there's probably going to be deadlines that change, and it's okay to explain in your application, hey, we're not at this deadline yet, or this is what we're thinking is going to happen and it might not necessarily happen. This is our idea. The more detail you have, even the more transparency about like, you know, this is what we want to happen, but it might not necessarily be by the book by the end of it, then you can just update us with a call and email, let us know, hey, this changed. We even had somebody apply this year who already called me and said one of their historians who they proposed to be a part of their application suddenly passed away. And they were like, what do I do? I submit an application. We just edit it. We tell our panelists, hey, there was a change. We're definitely have the leeway. So it's okay if everything isn't in time order right away, you know, just give us what you know, what you can provide. I think that's what we're kind of asking for.
Well, thank you, Chelsea. That's helpful. You know, there would be two things that are helpful, and this is from all of you. Sometimes they want a ADA compliance statement. I would love to have a sample of that. And they also have other BIPOC. I'm not clear on what that is. A BIPOC statement having to do with lack of discrimination and et cetera. Again, a sample statement for what you would like to see included would be a great help.
Algernon, for anything related to ADA, I strongly encourage you to reach out to the Cultural Access Network, which serves that purpose for both arts and history within the state. If you're looking for sample ADA statements, they should have some on their website that you can work from. That's the Cultural Access Network.
And for Chelsea and Algernon, just so that you know that you are not alone. This is something that comes up, I'm going to guess, in just about every county. You know, where there's so much specific information. One of the things that we've done, and I've actually done it myself in grant writing as well, because, you know, if you can't give your, like specifically, this is the person we're going to hire, you could always give your, like what your criteria are, for hiring said person. So you might not be able to name names, you know, but you might be able to be like, well, here is exactly what we're looking for. One of the things that has come up in our grant reviews, from our panel, and we follow pretty much the same as everybody else. We have a panel that reviews, and then it goes through the various layers. You can, oh, sorry, that thought just like went right out of my head. You know, you could give like what your criteria are, and you can also, you know, maybe put people that you've worked with previously. This is the you know, the caliber of someone that we are looking for. You know, and you're doing this a year in advance. So many things can change in a year. Many things can change in a month, you know. So the panel is aware of that. I think what they want to see, and this has come up in our panels, this is what I was going to say, is that they want to see that you have solid plans, not like, oh, well, we think we're going to do this, or we think we're going to do that. It's like, no, we're going to do this, and this is our roadmap for getting there. You know, and that kind of makes things a little more solid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if I could just jump in quickly, I don't want to take time away from our counties. I just wanted to say that, so I think part of the problem too may be that the counties are asking for information that the commission is asking for. So not to put too much of the blame on them. Sometimes the blame comes back to us because we do ask for certain information. What I did want to say is that one of the things that we've talked about is streamlining the commission's application, but then also putting together a committee that would look at all the regrant program applications to see if there's a way that we can streamline and make those simpler. And just thinking and listening to you all right now, it's probably not a bad idea to invite comments from our grantees about how we can streamline those. So I wanted to let you know that that's something that we're working on. And I think if there's another point that I would really just want to underscore here is to all of you, you know, I'm responsible for the County History Partnership Program. I know all of the counties. I think they're really wonderful. I think that they have a very strong commitment to their communities and to trying to help organizations with getting funding, but with also helping them to develop. So if you haven't reached out to your county office, I would absolutely encourage you to do that. There's a lot of resources that they offer outside of the grant program. And like I said, I think they all have a very strong commitment to local history development. So they really want to help you. And if you've never received a grant, if you have no idea about managing a grant, these offices are sort of your gateway. This is an opportunity for you to learn what it's like to receive a grant or to apply for a grant, to manage a grant. Just wanted to say that I also just want to say that all of our presenters are really wonderful today. Thank you for all of the very good information. And hopefully I tried to answer some of the questions that were coming up in the chat about the amounts of funding that goes to each of the counties and how they make their decision. Their decisions. I tried to post some information in the chat about that. If you ever want to talk more about that, you're free to contact me directly, or you can call your county as well. I can put my contact information in the chat if you'd like to contact me.
Okay, great. Were there any other questions or comments? I had a quick question actually for Caitlin. So Caitlin, I see that you all give grants to faith-based organizations. Is that correct?
We don't deny them, but but we've actually had in the 10 years I've been doing it, I haven't had one apply.
Okay.
That would be especially I know with the state's been having, there's been controversy over not allow, it's because it's program based. We do not allow faith-based, active faith-based for our bricks and mortar grant. But the same with, I know the state's been having some issues where like, you kind of can't deny it, and then we would pass, like as Nicole's informed us, we would pass it to you guys for review, and it's a long process. So we haven't actually had one, but we've never denied one to date.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just curious. I've never seen that before, so I was just curious about that.
If I can just jump in on the faith-based organizations and organizations that apply that are connected to or are religious institutions. So yes, absolutely, religious organizations can apply to all of the county programs. They can apply to the state as well. There was a Supreme Court ruling back in 2018 or 2019 that came up with the religious use law. So because of that law, it was a Supreme Court case coming out of Morris County. There was a church that applied for funding, and there was a court case against that grant that was provided, because I think there was an argument about why is state funding being invested in a religious organization. So unfortunately now, absolutely religious organizations can apply, but yes, the poor counties have to, and the poor applicants have to pass the applications on to me at the state, and then they have to be reviewed by our state attorney general's office, specifically to make sure that this religious use law isn't being violated. So unfortunately, it is a bit of a process. I apologize upfront for it, but absolutely you can apply.
Okay, thank you. Because generally, if someone had asked me, I would have just off the cuff told them like faith-based organizations weren't able to apply. So this was really interesting. And then I had another, unless someone else has a question, I had another quick question to Chelsea regarding the special 250th mini planning. So one of the things I thought was interesting about that is that how did you all decide to apply for the grant to get that funding, or how did that happen?
So our special mini grant, 250th mini grant, is funding that we also receive from the Historical Commission. So it's essentially just an offshoot of our re-grant program. They're still re-grant funds, just broken down to a mini grant. That application, actually this year, we've seen the most amount of applicants that we've ever had with that application. Last year, we had 5 people apply. We got 16 since May of last year. I think a lot of people are very interested in that application, not only because we're almost up to the 250th year. So a lot of people have plans coming about, but also it's a very short application. It's a very simple, quick, it's meant to just be 2 pages, narrative, explain what you're doing. So that funding, it's less, you can request less funding. It's not as big as our history. So the max this year was 2,500. You could request between 500, 2,500. But we didn't apply as a county for additional funding specifically for this. This is just kind of part of our re-grant program.
So it's interesting. So what made you all I just had a quick question.
Mhm.
What made you all decide to do that program?
So I actually wasn't here for when they established it, but from my understanding, Trisha Fagan, who used to work in my position, and Nicole might have some insight into this, spoke with a lot of our history grantees to see kind of getting feedback about what they want funding for. What is it that you all need? And I believe that that was something that's something, especially in Mercer County, and I know across the state of New Jersey and the nation really, is this 250th is a really big deal for many, many people, many, many organizations. So from my understanding, she reached out to our grantees at the time and asked, how else can we support? And a lot of people are saying we need money for these additional projects we want to do. And thus this re-grant was born.
Thank you. I was curious about that. So I think Molly and then Michael before we wrap up.
Well, thanks, Noel. Yeah,
Mhm.
folks, I think the word is there are going to be 1 million visitors into New Jersey in 2026 between the World Cup and whatever is happening in Philadelphia and elsewhere here, hopefully in Trenton too, around the 250th. So it's a huge opportunity for all of us to introduce new stories too, untold stories to our own communities as well as to visitors from around the country, maybe even from around the world. So that's why we're excited about participating in that 250th mini grant. It's just a mini grant, right? There's a lot more work to do to get things going, but that was why my question about was there any special funding happening for the 250th, as I think happened for the 200th, if I'm not mistaken. There were monies that came into the state specifically for making things happen for the bicentennial of the nation. There certainly are so many wonderful things that could be done to help us expand our understanding of that era and that moment. Thanks, Noel.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Molly. And then Michael.
Yeah, I just to follow up what was said about we do try to do special initiative funding things for major topical events. Back in 2013, we did a special grant program for the NJ350. Back in around 2017, 2018, we did one for Centennial World War I. So this is sort of, if there's a topical event that we know there's going to be a large number of programming and interest in, we'll try to put together a special initiative mini grant. And those mini grants from the county on our end are actually going to be no cash match as opposed to the larger program grants. So those smaller ones are usually no cash match, and they're usually very tailored to a specific special initiative. We're going to probably offer our first 250th one starting next year.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Ward, did you have something? Oh, okay. So, before we close, Nicole, did you have any comments, before we close?
No, am I muted?
No,
Yep,
we can hear you.
I'm on. Okay. I just wanted to actually address the timeline because I know a lot of the counties mentioned that, and I know that can be a little confusing. The state's funding is on a fiscal year. So what happens is that counties hear from us in July how much funding they'll be getting, and then their grant periods actually don't begin until January of the next calendar year. So sometimes the timelines for the grants can be a little confusing, but yes, in most instances, you're applying a year before you'll actually, or maybe a few months before you'll actually get the grant distributed to you in January of the specific year you apply in. So I just wanted to mention that. I know a lot of groups, a lot of counties talked about that, and thank you for bringing that up.
Great. Well, thank you, Nicole. And so in closing, so this, I forgot to note, but I think Zoom noted it in the beginning. This program and the other programs are all going to be recorded. They're all recorded and they will be on our YouTube channel. The New Jersey Historical Commission has a YouTube channel that has our programs, including the African American History Program and Black Heritage Trail application instruction video, as well as other kind of technical assistant type workshops hosted by the grants program and other divisions in this program, including um, our general program division and the commission, as well as Revolution NJ. And so I encourage you to stay on the commission's list and be a part of the Rev NJ list to stay ahead of all of the opportunities. I think one of the things that's really important that's coming out of this conversation is how important it is for folks to establish long-term relationships with the county programs and also encourage their colleagues to do so as well, so that they have more time and opportunity to utilize the different things that the county offers, and as well as to meet like the requirements that the county has. Um, I know as someone who's been on um, all three sides of all of these different kind of processes, right? So being an applicant, being on the review committee, and then working at an organization or a foundation, not here, but organization or a foundation granting that. These are all high stakes positions to be in. They all carry a degree of some kind of burden, right? And time constraint. As we all know, and Nicole and Sarah have covered in past programming, we know that a lot of these state sites are staffed by volunteers or volunteer staff or part-time staff. So we definitely understand the burden of it. And one of the things is that if you all have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Nicole or your county offices to give suggestions. The best way for us all to be a part of this process is to continue to help like shape it and give feedback and be a part of it, and also attend the meetings. The meetings that they host, as well as any information meetings, and to also share it with your friends and colleagues. But I definitely do not want to sound Pollyanna-ish in this process. Whatever we can do to help you or to assist with this, please let us know, because this is a part of the commission's, greater outreach. And so I would like, on behalf of the New Jersey Historical Commission, and the staff here, as well as the Lieutenant Governor, former Secretary Tahisha Way, Governor Murphy, everyone, I would just like to say thank you all for attending today. We will notify everyone when the video is uploaded. If there's any information that you all want me to share with the uploading of the video, please send it to Nicole and I. so we can add it to the information for the video. And otherwise, thank you again for coming, and have a great week. Happy Pride, happy Juneteenth, and just happy upcoming summer, and continue to work, and whatever we can do to facilitate the work, we will.
Good job, Noel. Thanks for having us.
Okay,
It was
and
informative.
thank you.
Excellent Zoom. Thank you, Noel and everyone.
Yes, and we hope to see you on June 27th, if you're for the discussion with Algernon and Crystal about the application process. Okay, bye-bye.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.